Welcome to tonight's group workshop on the gift of passion. And I call passion a gift not only because Christmas is right around the corner and we're in the holiday season and I'm playing on that theme, but we are embedded with this inner knowing of that which is most aligned for us and that which can allow us to be of our greatest service and expression. So, our passion, when we get excited by something, when we feel joy when we do something, when we are drawn to something that pulls us in and makes us lose track of time and space, that is such a gift not only for the beautiful experience that it is in that moment, but everything that it leads to and all the abundance that comes from there. And I'm sure you could hear the excitement in my voice because I speak from experience of following that which feels most alive in my heart and that which is getting my attention. And just by doing that, life orchestrated itself, and I had to make decisions, but life orchestrated itself in such a way that supported me to become more than I could have hoped. I could not have fathomed I would be sitting here in this way, speaking with this knowingness and this confidence and this joy 5 years ago. No idea. So, I want to share tonight some tools, some questions, and a formula to help orient us in this way to ensure that we are living an authentic life of freedom and creative expression, and our truest self can be actualized through this. So I'm going to start with a little bit of breath, just so we could really ground and we could even increase our dopamine for the sake of focus. So go ahead and close your eyes if you can, dropping your awareness into the body, feeling your feet on the ground and your body on the chair that you sit. Feeling the breath in the belly and feeling that breath in the chest. Noticing whatever thoughts you may be having and redirecting your attention to the sensation of breath moving through your throat. Noticing the space behind the eyelids, that part of you that is present. And feeling the crown of your head and lifting very gently, lifting the head up tall to elongate the neck and the rest of the spine. And we're going to do one round of the Wim Hof breathing technique. So what this looks like is 30 deep breaths in and out. And it'll be roughly 30, but I'll count for you, guiding the pace. And then we're going to exhale to neutral, meaning not all the way out, and holding the exhale. We'll hold this exhale for just 30 seconds before inhaling all the way and holding the inhale for 10 to 15 seconds. And when we do this inhale hold, we're going to tighten the pelvic floor. We're going to Kegel, tighten the lower abdomen, push the pressure upward towards the head, and have a nice release of endorphins that will help us focus. So go ahead and take a nice deep breath in and out. And in and out. And we'll slowly pick up the pace. In, out, 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 and quicker now. In, out, 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 quicker now. In, out, 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 in, out. Good. Now fully in. Exhale to neutral and hold. Feeling the body. Feeling the sensations of energy moving through you. Five, four, three, two, one. Fully in. Inhale all the way quickly. And hold. Kegel. Tighten the abdomen. Push it to the head. 3, 2, 1. Let it go. Very good. Take a few nourishing breaths in and out. Really priming our bodies and minds for the next hour. And I'm going to start with the quote. You take your time coming back to this space. You can keep your eyes closed for now if you'd like. But I'm going to start with a quote by someone named Bashar that I've really been enjoying his words of wisdom. He says, excitement is the physical translation of the vibrational resonance that is your true, core, natural being. Follow your excitement. I'm going to say that once more. Excitement is the physical translation of the vibrational resonance that is your true, core, natural being. Follow your excitement. In other words, the feeling of excitement is the signal that you are in harmony with your true self. And this is the emotional guidance system that someone else named Abraham speaks of. When we feel this way, when thinking about something, when doing something, when acting on something, when we feel this way, we could rest assured that we are in alignment with our true self and the direction that we want to go. And that is something that is certainly not taught. We're taught to be logical, right? To be very black and white, to intellectually map things out and understand them and find the how. And there's plenty of room for that part of us, that part of our minds. But this emotional frequency, experience of excitement, of joy, of passion, that is the intuitive, emotional signal telling us, yes, this, go this way, you're on the path. And so to assist us in aligning with this passion, I'm going to start with a series of questions. And you could write them down, or you can answer them in your head. But writing them down helps memorize them a little bit more. And you'll have this replay to go over them again. But the first question, what excites you? Start to think of the things that excite you. It could be multiple things. What excites you? What energizes you? Question two, what energizes you? Like as I'm speaking now about, I took a nap before and it took me a little while to get out of the nap and take a shower. But now that I'm talking about this, I am lit up. And that leads me to the next question. What lights you up, right? What feels like this illumination of self? What attracts your attention? What do you find yourself thinking about throughout the day that is exciting to think about? Not like, oh, did I take the laundry out of the wash and put it in the dryer? Not those things where like, oh, but what attracts your attention? Another question. What activity causes you to lose sense of time or even a sense of yourself? What causes you to lose sense of time and even a sense of yourself, meaning you and that activity merge into one? Another question. If you could not fail, what would you do? How would you spend your time if you could not fail? What would you do? And in conjunction with this, if you did not need money, if you did not need money, if all your physical needs were met, food, money, shelter, how would you spend your time? You could put your answers in the chat if you'd like. And I'm asking, several questions, but I'm hoping that the answers are pretty much the same. They should be, could be a few different things, but they're all in harmony with each other. Sit on that for another moment. What would you do if you could not fail? And if you had all your physical needs met, how would you spend your time? Okay, the second round of questions, less questions, but we're going to go a level or layer deeper now. When the rain answered in the chat here, I would choose to do two things: move to music and assist teenage kids find themselves and feel good about themselves. That's beautiful. I love both of those, and I'm even interested to know how they go together. Like, I feel like these two things could even weave together: music and this assistance with teenagers, helping them find themselves and feel good through music. Because I know that you're a dedicated, huge music fan. You love dancing. And there's something powerful in helping people get comfortable enough to express through dance and find themselves through dance. So you see how these little things could even interweave with each other. Morella said, I take better care of myself and cook more. Beautiful. And that's a very wholesome and probably overlooked item there, avenue to go and do more energy work. So just this sounds like this deepening of self-care and sleep more. Yeah. Yeah, and I often feel that way too, where I think, because there was a period of time where I was trying to learn how to lucid dream, and I started to tap into the world, but not fully. And my thought was like, man, if I could lucid dream, people are probably like, yeah, I would fly, or I would, do these crazy things. But I'm like, I would just take a nap. under a tree because I would, at that point in my life, I was really draining myself. So, the self care, cooking more, energy work, sleeping more. And Lorraine said, good point, Eric. Weaving the two together. And that is certainly what I find for myself and where I try to what I try to mirror to other people is like all these gifts that we have and all these exciting things, they can very much weave together. And Morella, for you too, as you learn how to take better care of yourself and learn how to not learn how to cook, but learn how to cook more, getting into that rhythm, that any energy work as you master that, you become an authority on those things. You then become able to teach other people how to do those things in an extremely, or I'm going to use a word that I love, an infinitesimally unique way. So we're going to go to the second round of questions now. Great feedback. So, first of the part two questions. If you were living your life while acting on this passion or these passions, if you were living your life spending a fair amount of time doing these things, how would you feel? And you might have to close your eyes and drop in and visualize yourself. If you were spending most of your time doing this and all of your needs were met, you were living abundantly, freely, authentically, doing this passion, how would you feel? What emotions? Excited. What else would we feel? Nurtured and supported. Yes. Loved. So we want to get clear on these things more than the physical details of the passion in full manifest. What are those energetic and emotional qualities? And tuning in even further, what's the sensation of feeling nurtured and loved or excited? What does your body feel like? Yes. Feeling like you're doing what God would hope for you to do. This blessed life you were living, right? Like the most noble thing you could do. Beautiful, warm and fuzzy. Yeah, so when you feel the actual sensations, and I invite you all to do this, closing your eyes and feeling the sensations in your body. And this is a part of our aligning with, a big part of our aligning with and raising to that frequency of this reality, feeling at peace. And what does peace feel like in the body? What does excitement feel like in the body? Is it warm, expansive, tingly? I know when I drop a truth bomb, my whole body gets tingles all over. Like there's something letting me know, yes, zero stress. Yes, you should feel calm, still. All these, we'll call them positive emotions and sensations that are letting you know, yes. And welcome, Danielle. We're talking about right now, how would you feel? And I know that we've had this, at least this question before. How would you feel if you were living your life in your passion, acting on your passion? How would you feel? Gliding through the day, Marilla. So I'm hearing a sense of freedom, ease, and flow. Yes. So, how would we feel? And this feeling is more important than the specifics of the actual thing that you're thinking in your mind now. And now, question two of this second part. Yes, freedom. Question two. What do you fear would happen if you left what you currently spend most of your time doing and not I'm not saying if you just dropped everything, and some people do that. Someone named Stuart Wilde just left his apartment and dropped his keys in the drain and never went back. You can go that route. But I'm just talking about a shift. What do you fear would happen if you shifted out of what you currently spend most of your time doing into this passion, into this thing that brings you excitement and joy and freedom and peace and stillness and calmness? What do you fear would happen if you left the old and embraced this new? Unknown transition. So, yes, fear of the unknown. Not only what does it look like really, but how do I make it happen? How can I do that if I'm not doing this? What else? What do we fear would happen if we left the old and embraced this new? hmm And we want to, and I don't want to talk about fear to bring us down, but so that we could integrate any part that's resisting. What do we fear would happen if we left the old? So the passion, what excites us is like the foot on the gas. And then the fear is like the foot on the brake. We want to learn how to, or in what ways are we putting our foot on the brake? What do we fear would happen if you left the old or the current situation, but the old that may or may not be exciting still? It could be, but it's probably not as exciting as what we're talking about now. Otherwise, everyone would have said exactly what I'm doing right now. Having to build a new routine, yes. So the unknown, having to curate something new and different. It is easier said than done, but it's also easier to do what feels energizing as opposed to that which feels draining. Another fear, that people would not see my value and judge me. I may feel like I felt as a kid not valuable. Yeah, so this so deep right there, this old fear that perhaps we're not worthy of having this role. People wouldn't see the magic that we're bringing to the world. So we definitely have to look at that. Very good. Third question now for this section. And this was a powerful question that kind of blew my mind the first time my first mentor asked me this. What do you fear would happen? And some of these answers might be the same. What do you fear would happen if you did achieve this passion, the goal of this passion? What do you fear would happen if you did? So let's skip ahead. So not the unknown of the transition. So for you, Morella, in particular, what do you fear would happen if you made the transition and you built the new routine? You're in it. It's better self-care, better sleep, self-cooking. What do you fear would happen if you were there? And for you, Lorraine, what do you fear would happen if you were serving people in that way, teenagers in particular? And Morella said there would be nothing left to achieve. So isn't that isn't that funny? Right? So that's a great example of how the subconscious mind keeps us doing certain things, right? It could keep us in a pattern of achieving more and making things harder and constantly working, because if we finished, what else would there be to do? And I love the laughing emoji. So great. And everyone else, please think like Morella. This type, what do you fear would happen if you were there? And Lorraine said, I would rely on this work to pay my bills. If I did not make the money I needed, and I would not have the money for my kids and myself. Okay, so this fear that this vision of passion would not be financially fruitful enough to not only meet your needs, but to be the caretaker that you are. Yeah. So very real things to consider. And Danielle says, fear that it would be difficult to accept that I no longer have to worry, which I'm accustomed to. Like, yeah, if we were there and all of our needs are being met, and we're so programmed to worry, to try hard, to work, to achieve, to do these things. So now let's close our eyes and sit with these fears that you mentioned. What do I fear would happen if I accomplish this goal? Noticing where you feel the fear in your body as a sensation. Let's first and foremost presence yourself with what's here now. And now we're going to use a part of the tool from the last workshop on perception, which is getting really curious now with this fear. Is it true? And if you think, yeah, it is true, can you be absolutely certain without a shadow of a doubt that it's true? So Morella said there'd be nothing left to achieve. Can you be absolutely certain that if you created this life of tremendous self-care and cooking and sleeping well and all these things, that there would be nothing left to achieve? How could you know for sure? Yes, she said, no, I can't be certain. And Lorraine, can you be certain that that passion would not be more fruitful than how you spend your time now? How could you be so sure? And Danielle, how could you be so sure that it would be difficult to accept that you don't have to worry? Can you be absolutely certain? Yes, and I love what you did right there, Lorraine. You said, thankfully, I have always figured it out. And that is my next question. How can you be, or I'm sorry, what truths can you find that support this, that rather than the fear? So if the fear is, I'm not going to have anything to achieve, I'm not going to make enough money, how could you be sure, or how could you start to bring in the opposite? How, in what ways have you accomplished something and then there was more to achieve? Or in what ways have you, think of a time when you did go for that goal that didn't seem financially secure, didn't make logical sense, and you were okay. You did have your needs met and you could take care of your family. Start writing down, if you can, examples of the truth that you have been able to do this before in another way. And Danielle said, there's always more to achieve, and I can accept just being happy, just simply being happy. Yes. And give an example of that. In what ways have you achieved something and you were able to just relish in the happiness of it? That's specific for Danielle here. So start to take another minute or two. What are some examples in which the opposite is true? Opposite of the fear. Marilla said money always came somehow. Yes. Especially when you're acting on your passion. Danielle said there was a time that I was thriving without worry. I achieved sobriety and a new job and working out. Yes. And we've all, in some way, and that's incredible, Danielle. I want to reflect that. And we have all, in some way, done something that proves this fear wrong. But the ego, the protector, tries to maintain these stories to keep us safe, to keep us in the comfortable, to keep us in the familiar, even if it's no longer serving us. There's the ego says what's familiar is comfortable, even in abusive relationships. As crazy as that sounds, someone might stay in something that's abusive because it's familiar. And a part of them would rather that than the discomfort of what comes next if they move on beyond that. And the rain says money always came. I remember standing in the line at Wawa with breakfast food for my sons in my hands, and I was able to pay for it. Yes, we have these stories proving the fear wrong. Money would appear in the mailbox. Yes, it always finds us, but we have to let it in. And when we're trusting that it's coming, it comes in more easily. And this is another way that the law of attraction works. When we're in a state of trust and openness, we can more clearly see all the ways in which we're being supported and all the ways in which there are resources and abundance everywhere. But if we're in fear, we're restricted, we're pinching ourselves off, and it's harder to see the truth. So this process can go deeper, and there's different ways to feel into these emotions and rewrite the script and find the memories where these fears were embedded. But we're not going to go that deep tonight, but we're just beginning to peel back these layers to the subconscious to see how we unintentionally hold ourselves in place rather than letting ourselves fully. It's like keeping a plant in too small of a pot, and the plant believes this is big as I could grow. However, there's all these other, versions of that same plant in bigger pots, and they're huge. What's the difference? It's just the pot, right? So we need to be the conscious gardener. We're the plant and we're the gardener and the pot. But I won't go down that that road. But we're the plant and the gardener. We have to consciously put ourselves in a bigger pot. And one way that we do that is, spending money on something that maybe logically doesn't make sense, but excites the hell out of you. That for me, when I first like spent the most when I spent the most money that I ever did in one shot for something that made no logical sense other than this excites me and my heart is telling me to follow this, I was so liberated. And I had a boss that was like, I need you to, to start going back into Philly again. I live in South Jersey, and I'm like, nope, not doing it, because I was free. I reached a new level of freedom. So beautiful participation. Thank you everyone so far. So now the third part. This is the 5-step formula, and I'm going to copy and paste this in a whiteboard so you could see it. And this is Bashar's formula, who I mentioned earlier. And this is his 5-step formula for living a fulfilled life. And I'll break it down, and living with your passion. So I'm going to share whiteboard. Okay, and I gotta move all these. Not sure if you guys have ever used a whiteboard for, but there's always a bunch of stuff in the way. Okay. So I got my whiteboard up. I'm sharing my screen. Okay. So 1, his formula for living a fulfilled life. Act on your excitement, your passion, whatever is most exciting to you in the moment, and do this every moment that you can. So, this is what I've been saying the whole time, but I'm going to beat it in with a stick and give an example of what this looks like. This means when you have the time, rather than always doing what is on your to-do list, giving yourself permission to do that thing that is more exciting first. And you might believe, I don't have time, but there's time when you create it. And we could break down every person's day and look at all the wasted time doing other things that don't really give us the totality of what we actually want. And there's Gary Keller is his name. He wrote a great book called The One Thing, and that could totally be infused into today's lesson. But he says 20% of what we do creates 80% of our outcomes. So it's the 20-80 rule principle. So in other words, there's much of what we do that does not really amount to anything. And I don't want to say it's wasted time. Like if you're enjoying your time, it's not wasted. But there are ways in which we could create time so that we could spend more time doing what we're excited about. Let me give you an example. I had like a 3-hour break, and I knew that I wanted to work in that time. I knew that I wanted to work out in that time. However, I was tired and I kind of felt like I should nap. But I think in retrospect, my body was resisting the act of exercise because I didn't really want to do it. The idea was draining me. I didn't really need rest. So instead, I watched a cartoon. And in this cartoon, the main character achieves this crazy power called One for All. And it really resonates with a lot of my different spiritual understandings and applications. But in this show, this character is learning how to embody this elevated and expanded version of himself. And there's fighting, and it's funny, but it's more so the principle of what's happening that got me so excited. And from that excitement, I then hopped on my bike and I rode to a park and I worked out and I felt great. So again, being that I acted on my excitement, and then the thing that I thought I needed to do happened naturally. I wanted to work out after I followed my excitement. Okay. So, and Gary Keller would also say, if you don't have time, set aside time to plan your time. And before planning anything else, plan your breaks, plan your space, plan your time to do nothing. And that's the time at which you could follow your excitement. So, part two of this, do this to the best of your ability. Take it as far as you could go until you could take it no further. Okay, so follow your excitement to the best of your ability. Take it as far as you could go until you could take it no further. What does this look like? For me, that I was someone that experienced a lot of physical injuries from wrestling. So when I was going to school, the idea of becoming a physical therapist excited me and it motivated me to work really hard in school. I went through school, I burned myself out, and then so I couldn't keep doing the schooling at that time. I needed to take it to a different step. So I started working in a physical therapy office, and that was wonderful. I loved learning, I loved teaching, but eventually, no longer exciting. Okay, so I changed the path again. Now I'm a strengthening and conditioning specialist, and this is exciting. I'm working with people in a more authentic way. I'm able to talk about mindset and help people with nutrition. And this is great for a while, and I'm growing and making more money. And then again, I feel stuck. I took it as far as it could go. And then it's the pandemic. And I have all this time. And I realized I want to be a life coach. I want to learn how to help people change and heal and find their freedom and their peace. So you see how, like, my path, even though it kept changing, I was following my excitement the whole time and probably stayed too long in some of those work environments. But the excitement was this kind of linear path. It was bringing me along in the same direction the whole time, where now I could help people mind, body, and spirit. I know how to take really good care of my body because of all this. Okay. 3, act on your excitement/passion with absolutely no insistence, assumption, or expectation of what the outcome should be. I'll say that again. Act on your excitement and passion with absolutely no insistence, assumption, or expectation of what the outcome should be. What does that mean? Let go of the fine details of the vision. And Bashar, and I was kind of saying this earlier about how it's more important to, excuse me, it's more important to feel the emotions, and Abraham says this too, to feel the emotions and the vibration of the vision rather than just focusing visually on the vision. And why is that? At this point in time, we could picture this future passion, us acting it out, working as this or that. But from this moment in time, we cannot fully see the totality of that vision. We can't really imagine and fathom from this point in time what exactly that will look like. And I said that earlier. When I was deciding to become a life coach, I had no idea that it was going to, like, even in 2018, when I had this big life expanding experience, I'm like, I know that I'm supposed to help people in a more conscious way. And I knew that I was supposed to use my music. I had no idea what that was going to look like. And now there's a rock opera in the oven. I'm doing workshops, breath work, all these things. I couldn't have fathomed that. So I needed to follow the excitement. I needed to focus more on feeling an alignment than the physical thing that I was working towards. It helps to get clearer and more specific so we can make sure that we're aiming in the right direction. And that's what Gary Keller says. He says, the finer and more specific, the clearer your line of trajectory, yes, but more important to stay in emotional and vibrational alignment than the physical thing. Step 4, choose to remain in a positive state regardless of what happens. So what's going to happen is there's going to be times where you take action that seems to be in alignment and it doesn't turn out how you hoped. This past weekend, nobody showed up. I held a breath workshop. There was nobody there. But what did I do? I pretended like I had an audience of 100 people. And I showed up. I did exactly what I would do if it was a full house. I still got more practice in. I have content. I have a saved video that people can continue to use. But it takes a conscious reframing of what had happened sometimes to be able to fully accept it in order to stay positive. So another example, say like you change your prices and you lose clients. Why might that actually be better than having kept that client? Oh, now I have more time. Oh, now there's more space on my schedule for a more aligned client, a higher paying client. There's always a positive reframing that you could make of that quote unquote negative outcome. There's always a positive switch that you can make, and you have to be ready to make it. How is this actually better? How am I better off for this happening? Even past things where you think you failed. How did that actually work out better? All my injuries, you could say like, oh, my knee injury ended my senior year, like this, did that, my overstudying in school depleted my social life. Yes, I could look at those with regret, or I could look at it like all my injuries helped me understand my body more. It helped me understand mechanics and therapy and how to heal and how to help other people heal their physical bodies. Or all that time spent studying helped me refine my focus. It made me a really good student. If I want to be a good teacher, I have to be a good student. And knowing what I didn't want shows me now what I do want. You see how I'm reframing all of that? Okay, so we have to be ready to reframe. Step 5, constantly investigate your belief systems. And we did this already. Is that fear true? And sometimes that's enough to eradicate it. Other times we have to go into the emotions and the past and the nervous system. But we have to be curious. Is what we're believing true? Release and replace the unpreferred beliefs. What is more true? What is more true? What are examples of this truth? So when a belief is not in alignment with who you prefer to be, you will feel resistance. You will feel tension. You will feel burnout, fatigue. You will not feel as good. Your body will signal to you that what you're believing is not in alignment with the truth of who you are. And even if that is a fear that's based in logic trying to keep you safe, and it probably definitely kept you safe at one point. But if you're feeling like a plant in a small pot, that means that belief is no longer serving you, and you have to question that. And this is the way that I work with people one on one. This is the way that I broke free from my past conditioning and up leveled myself time and time again, looking at what beliefs are under the surface in the subconscious, in the unconscious, which is just deeper, realigning them with truth and writing a new narrative. And you have to it's conditioned because we were conditioned to think a certain way, and you're going to have to take time to recondition a new way of thinking. And that looks like affirmations and journaling and reading books that are aligned with this way of seeing and listening to people, different spiritual leaders and gurus and teachers and coaches. You have to fill your consciousness with the content that excites you and aligns with what you could actualize as truth. And that's how you begin to think differently yourself. So that is it as far as content for tonight's workshop, the gift of passion. We have this gift inside of us waiting to be expressed into the world. And this thing that gives us passion, this thing that lights us up, if it could keep our attention as deeply as you know, as it does, you will give more energy to that more easily than anything else. And what you give energy to grows. Where energy goes, it flows. I'm sorry, where energy flows, energy grows. And I think it might have been Joe Dispenza or somebody else, but not important. When you focus on this thing that gives you excitement, you will give energy to it. It will expand. You will expand. And the value of this service, this activity, this product, the value expands infinitely. You could not put a container, you could not conceive of the expansion, the abundance that will come from this. And you have to try it out for yourself. Don't take my word for it. See what happens. Follow what excites you before what you think you have to do for a week. And then get back to me. Tell me if it was like a waste of time or if you shifted. And I guarantee, no matter how small, there will be a shift. Thank you so much. And we'll do a little Q&A now. If we have any questions, I'm going to stop the screen share. I'm going to stop recording. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a beautiful night. Open oh, there it is, and stop.